I think a lot of coaches, when they're first starting out, I actually know a lot of coaches when they're first starting out, because I did it, you did it, like just want to take on clients. And it doesn't really matter who. It's just like, I want to start working with people, which at that point is probably the right mindset. And a lot, there are certain limiters, but you're taking on all kinds of different people. But as you progress, you start to learn that like you probably shouldn't have taken on certain clients for certain reasons. And so I thought it'd be a fun brainstorm here to talk about like the worst types of clients, or like who you shouldn't take on. And I'll give you 3 examples that just came to mind recently. One, this is a rare instance, but I've found it unbelievably true across my career, is when someone applies for coaching for someone else, never works out. Never. Could be like an adult child applying for their parent, like my dad's in poor health, like applies for coaching, and then at the end like fills out all his dad's info, and at the end says like, hey, I'm actually Josh, Steve, whatever, this is for my parent. Doesn't work out. Could be for like I've actually had a husband sign his wife up, like paid for it. I don't think she necessarily wanted to. This was many years ago, but very difficult. Always very difficult. That's one. 2 is the standard like run-on sentence application. If you get a coaching application and there's this much straight text and it's just like poor grammar, just like all over the place, you got to remember.
No breaks, no white space, just in your words, a word salad, just like, not good.
That's what emails are going to be like. Communication's going to be hard. Like that ends up being, not necessarily someone you shouldn't work with, but it's going to be a more difficult client, something to pay attention to. And another one that's a little more obvious, but again, when you're first starting out, you're like, I feel like I can help everybody. Someone with goals that are outside of your scope of practice, like just on an ethical, moral level, but also on a practical, like if you're a power lifter and someone wants to run a marathon and you're like, I need money, and they're willing to sign up, I could probably help them. In powerlifting, you can rationalize like, oh yeah, if we could get them, but
get you stronger, you're going to be a better runner.
Which is true. But if it's like, okay, my goal is marathon performance, and you're like the powerlifting guy, it's like you have to just say no and refer out, and you're both going to benefit massively in the long run.
Yeah. Man, I love the first one that you said, like when they apply for someone else. That didn't happen a lot, but it did happen a fistful of times. And you're 100% right. Not only like did it not work out once it actually happened, but it was a mess. Like onboarding, it was like, hey, I know you filled all this out, but I need them to fill this shit out. And I need to have like this conversation. Like you just told me what you perceive, but this doesn't give me any information from their mind. So you literally have to have them fill it out, and then you have to get them communicate, and they didn't want it in the first place. So communicating with them is a bitch. So like they don't reply as quickly, like they're not as invested. They often feel like resentful that the person wanted to sign them up anyway. It's like, it's a terrible situation. And one of the tricky situations with that is when, let's say it's the husband-wife scenario, which did happen a number of times, or the husband-wife or the wife-husband, whatever, where the husband wants to coach with you and he also wants his wife to coach with you. That's also tricky, because then you're already going to work with the husband, but then the husband is trying to push the wife on you. Or I had it in reverse as well. The wife wanted to work with you, but she wanted the husband to work with you as well. And it was like, it was so difficult. I had multiple like, hey, maybe we can just do our check-ins together in the same email. And it was like, this is a bad idea all around. If someone wants to work with you, they should be independently reaching out to you on their own. And if someone says like, hey, I want to sign up my husband, wife, kid, whatever, parent, say, cool, have them fill out this form from their email. Because if someone else is doing it, dude, you're 100% right. That is a bad situation.
It's just, you hit the nail on the head too with long response times and one word answers, which is something you don't see. Like really very rarely in coaching are you seeing one word answers across the board. But I would get us like assessment replies where people sink a half hour, 40 minutes to like give you really detailed answers. And one word, open-ended questions. One word answer, one word answer, one word answer. It's like, okay, this isn't going to be good.
The worst was like when you have an open-ended question, like, how are you feeling, for example? And in, if they just say good, it's not what you want, but like, all right, at least you're feeling good. The worst is like when you say like, how are you feeling? And they say not good.
Terrible.
And like, that's all they say.
Don't explain.
All right. You want to tell me what's going on? Why you're not feeling good? Like is like, it's so true.
Yeah.
The other one, and I know like this goes into what you were saying in terms of like different goals, or goals that you're not educated on. It's along those same lines, but someone who has an issue that you're not educated on. Like, for example, if someone came to me and said they had a thyroid issue and they were not willing to be medicated, that was a no. And it was because I don't know how to work with someone who doesn't have healthy thyroid levels. If you're medicated and your thyroid levels are up to a healthy level, great, I can absolutely help. But if you have below normal or above normal thyroid levels, I don't know what to do. So I even put like in my sheet, I said, here are disqualifications immediately. If you have this and you are not medicated, I cannot work with you. If you have this and it's not being taken care of, I cannot work with you. If you are currently struggling with binge eating disorder, anorexia, bulimia, I cannot work with you. I had like an entire list of disqualifications so that people would know like what I can and cannot take. And I would also have a list of what I expect of you as my client and what you can expect of me as your coach. I had this in a whole PDF that would be sent to them before they signed on. So it was like, all right, cool. Like once they send me all the answers to the questions, I decide this might be a good fit. Here's what we need to get out of the way from the very beginning before we send any money, before anything. I cannot work with you. I have this, or this. In terms of coaching, I expect you to do this, this, and this. And in terms of your coach, you can expect this, this, and this from me, which I think from the very beginning didn't solve 100% of the problems, but solved like a significant percentage, 90, 95% of potential issues.
It's a great idea. The eating disorder one is huge. If that's not your specialty, like someone struggling with an eating disorder, and the worst part is that it's an abundance of empathy that will often make a coach set aside their rationality and be like, oh no, I will be able to help this person. It's like, no, they're struggling with a disorder that you aren't qualified to help them with. That needs to be referred out. Another thought just came into my mind. By the way, we're not saying that if someone runs and also wants to get into strength training, that you shouldn't take them on as a client. We talked to
Correct.
Deb asked
Right.
a question about this in the Q&A yesterday in the mentorship. And obviously, like there are times when a strength coach is going to work with a runner on lifting weights, which is super beneficial and a good thing. But, an elite level marathon runner, if for some reason wanted to hire you for,
Even if they're not an elite level marathoner, the difference is you can write their strength training program, but you better not try and write their fucking running program if you don't know how to, like, I can write a strength program for a marathon runner. I cannot write their running program. I don't know how to do that. I don't know the first thing, how many miles, what tempo you should be at, what heart rate we're shooting for. Like I haven't been educated on that. So like,
Exactly.
If you want to do the strength training program with the knowledge of what runners go through, great. But don't be like, if they say, hey, could you also write my running program? Absolutely the fuck not.